Hello there, my name is Ariel, and I'm super excited for the session we're about to have today. Today, we'll be talking about some of the ways that whoever's watching this right now, you're here for a reason, how you can overcome some of the obstacles that you might face when considering running Alpha. And I'm not alone today, I'm here with Lukolo.
Come on.
Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us, one, your name, who you are, how you fit into this context.
You've said my name. My name is Lukolo. I get to work with the Alpha South Africa team.
That's it.
And I'm really excited to explore what are some of the roadblocks and how can we overcome them so that we could try reach as many people with the gospel in a good way.
That's great. Lukolo, just to start us off, I think whoever's joining and tuning into this video already has an idea of what Alpha is, but why Alpha? Just to start off, before we start addressing the roadblocks, how does Alpha serve the church in this day and age, and why would it be a benefit to the person watching?
Yes, well, Alpha is a series of talks that gets to explore the Christian faith. But you get to explore the Christian faith in a way where it's non-judgmental, it's non-threatening. You can invite your friends to explore the big questions of life together in a way where they don't just get to ask questions, be answered, but they also get to create community as well by being with other like-minded people who are potentially asking the same questions. You probably had, a scenario when someone's gone, oh, wow, you are having the same question I'm having.
Right.
Already that creates some level of a relationship.
Very good.
And so Alpha creates the space and opportunity for people to explore the Christian faith in a non-threatening way, in a non-judgmental way, with no need for there to be hands raised at the end. But they also get to they also get to build relationships with other people as they ask those questions.
Very good.
Yeah. We believe it's more a journey than it is just that sort of leap of, raising the hand. Yeah.
So good.
And so getting to walk with people week upon week, exploring the videos. And so it's useful for any type of church, any size of church, any context of church. It's also useful for you not even using it in a particular church, whether you're doing it in school, you're doing it in your home, you're doing it at your workplace. It's a great way just to have great conversations. And then we start to see the seeds of faith that God starts to plant in people's lives.
So exciting. Yeah. Great tool for the church and in the hands of the church. And one thing we don't want is for these perceived obstacles to say, maybe that won't work for me. That's why I believe we're talking to two different groups of people here. One, people who have tried Alpha and they were like, oh, I don't know if certain things will work
it's not
in
working.
My context.
Yeah, or maybe
so
they've tried it and they've they know the tool potentially works and the tool is potentially great, but it's just not reaching the type of fruit that they'd want to reach.
Exactly.
Maybe they've seen another church do it and somebody's told them, hey, you should do it.
Yeah.
But actually, as they do it, they realize it's not actually meeting the demand or the need that they'd want.
Yeah.
And so you could be that type of church as well.
100%. And then another group of people is perhaps people who've heard of Alpha, but are sitting at the distance and saying, there are so many steps that I need to overcome in order to get to actually running an Alpha. Yeah. So we want to talk to those two group of people.
It might feel like too complicated or too complex, so you might be comparing yourself to another church who runs it a bit better, and you just think, oh my goodness, we are not there. And so today we want to hopefully level the playing field so that you can, as you dream, either for now, even for next year or wherever, for you to try create spaces and environments for people to explore faith. And we think one of the best ways is Alpha.
Amazing. So let's dive straight into it. I think what we're going to look at is basically 5 main obstacles that we see churches face, struggles that might be something that's perceived or actually is real.
It's a real thing,
but there are ways around these. So the 5 things we'll look at is 1, budget for a church who's saying, that sounds like it might be a little bit expensive and our church doesn't have the resources for it. Second, we'll be looking at just the obstacle or the challenge around finding leaders to facilitate Alpha. So we'll chat into that, give a few ideas and thoughts on how churches can do that better. Thirdly, breaking the cycle of plateau. plateaus. Because sometimes people will start in Alpha and then they'll be like, okay, that's the same person who came last week, or it's not growing, or there's less people this session than there was in our first opening session. So that's definitely something we want to look at and talk about. And then number 4, which I'm also excited about, is just the art of inviting people.
Yes.
Alpha, like we talk about internally, is that it's created for evangelism. Yes. It's a tool for evangelism. It's not supposed to be kind of this echo chamber of the church, which creates so many good, like the goal is to grow the church, the body of Christ, but also the church that you're leading, you know, whoever's watching this, or your group if you're not a church leader. But that's the focus. And sometimes that's a big obstacle for many people. How do we invite? And then lastly, sustaining momentum.
Yeah.
Basically speaking into how to create or positioning ourselves to make Alpha part of our church culture so that there's that continuous influx of new believers coming into the church.
Some great roadblocks. Hopefully we'll provide some solutions. We're not here to provide the answers. Right. We'll be looking at what are some of the other churches doing across the country, across the continent as well, and take some of those best practices and some of the proven tactics that other churches have used, and we'd love to share them with you. But it's in no way trying to say that this is the only way, but we'll provide hopefully a better roadmap by looking at what are other churches doing, and how could you potentially also learn as well.
Yeah. So let me get into the first question there.
First one.
What have you seen other churches do? Like you said, we're looking at many churches who have run Alpha and many churches in various contexts. So around the conversation on budget, where a church is looking at Alpha and saying, I don't think I have the resources to be able to run this program. What would you say to that church leader around budget? And what do you think this perceived problem is where they think they should have more budgets to run Alpha?
Yeah, and for any person who's watching, for any leader, we know that budget is always top of mind for any new ministry venture, for any new thing that is being done. Yeah, budget is always top of mind, especially for the church. And you could be serving in a particular context where maybe there isn't even budget at all, or maybe you might be serving in a context where budget is just so limited. So how can you now create an inviting? How can you create this non-threatening environment where people can get to explore faith, right? The first thing is we never want budget to be a barrier for people to explore faith, to hear about faith, and to create community. Okay. And so what then you can try to do if you're considering to run Alpha with no budget or limited budget is firstly consider to rope in the community. And sometimes roping in the community is that we know that, there's food is great, but there's nothing like people who actually want to have you around and have you in their context. So utilize your people. And sometimes when you utilize your people, you might find that you don't have the budget to create it, to have the food, to have all the necessary things, but someone can bring something every single week. It becomes a community project over than just, hey, the church must do it. People could say, hey, I'll bring biscuits next week. It might not be much. It just might be some rooibos tea and some biscuits. But that will just create, as soon as when people come in, at least there's something that they could do. But what you want is that you don't want money to be a limiter to get people to step out in faith, to invite their friends and for people to come and explore faith together. And so budget shouldn't be an issue. So what other churches have done is they provide biscuits. If you're running Alpha for Youth, what they do is they buy 2 packets of popcorn, some oil, make popcorn, and generally there's more popcorn that's made than what is actually that people actually eat on the day. And sometimes what you want is not actually great food. Great food is great and needed if you can. You want to create an environment that is welcoming.
That's it.
When people come in, they feel welcomed. I mean, you know it, I know it. When even growing up, even when I go back home, if you go visit a neighbor's house, they will go and buy you juice and they will just pour you juice as a way of welcoming you. And so I imagine that as well, that it's not about bringing them the best juice. It's the fact that you are so happy to have them around that you're creating a moment for them just to have something that they could potentially consume. Doesn't have to be massive, doesn't have to be expensive, but also utilize your community to best do it.
I love that. Spreading out the responsibility. I think that also invites people to be part of something, you know, where it's not there is a leader who's doing everything, but this is a us thing.
Yeah.
So I love that idea. And just to touch a little bit on the food thing, the best community happens around food. And I think that's why Alpha makes food important. So it's not about the meal itself, like you mentioned. It's about the ability to come together and connect. Connection is key, and that happens
It's all about the connection. You know, sometimes you can have great food without great connection. But what you really want is, especially if you're getting people who are exploring faith, who are on the fringes of faith, who've lost faith, who are questioning faith, what you want to make them feel is you're welcome to be here as you are.
So good.
You don't have to believe, you don't have to think the right way, but we're just so happy that you are here. And so if you prioritize the food too much, or you prioritize the thing too much and not prioritizing having the people there, you might lose them a little bit.
Yeah, that's great. So in conclusion for that, budget should not be an issue because it's not necessarily about what you're giving. It's more about you creating a space where people can feel welcome and connected. And a little drink, a rooibos tea, popcorn is 16 Rand for a pack, even cheaper in some places. But it is about creating that environment where people feel comfortable and their guards are down to set the tone for the session. Very good. Thank you. The second thing that we'll be looking at is finding and forming leaders.
Yes.
So this would look like facilitators and hosts. And people are like, would love to run Alpha, but I'm not a galvanizer. I'm not a person who can be, not everyone is charismatic. Not everyone's like, I can make people do things. And some people are really gifted in that. But yeah, just to speak a little bit into that, what would it look like and what have other churches done in order to position themselves to have not just leaders, but good leaders, you know, leaders that are able to, again, facilitate those spaces in a way that creates a safe space for people to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And what are the obstacles that you've seen?
What are some of the obstacles? Yeah. I think this is probably out of the 5 common issues, probably my favorite one, because I generally think for anyone who's considering to run Alpha, if you could get over this hurdle, it generally makes the other hurdles a bit better.
For sure.
So finding and forming leaders. So the first thing is, for an example, let's say you're dreaming to run Alpha and you really are trusting for 50 people who don't necessarily come to church, who don't have faith, who've lost faith. The natural thing is before you make an announcement at church that we're running Alpha, please invite your friends. What I and you should do, what other churches do, is to go, let's find 5 people within the community, within the church. And generally what we're finding with these 5 people is that you're looking for 5 people who aren't overly involved in the church, who have some level of a social life, meaning they've got friends who naturally don't believe. Either they're playing whatever sport they're doing, whatever activities on the weekends, but they've got some level of a circle of friends. And then you actually go to them and say, hey, we're planning to run Alpha in the next month or 2. We'd love for you just to invite 5 of your friends each. Why? If you equip 5 people to invite 5 of their friends, and you say, hey, the reason why we would love for you to invite is we would love for you to facilitate. We'd love for you to facilitate the Alpha group. Already you have a buy-in from your facilitator, which is your host.
That's great.
And then your host invites 5 friends. Naturally, if you invite or tell me to invite my 5 friends, I'll want to be involved because I don't want my 5 friends coming and they have an experience that I'm not a part of. But also my 5 friends are going to come because I'm telling them that I'm going to be there as well. And then what you do is that now you empower these 5 friends to invite 5 friends. And immediately you've got 25 people. And what you're wanting is 25 people who are on the fringes, 25 people who've lost faith, questioning their faith, not even sure about issues of faith. And I got 25 people, but you've got 5 leaders that you have handpicked to come. This is the benefit now. By the time I announce it at church, by the time I put it on social media, I already have 50% of the target that I wanted to reach, which was 50 people. So now I announce it to the church. So now when I announce it to the church and everyone else in the church invites their friends, at least there's a base. I'm not thinking by the time when my Alpha comes, who is actually going to come.
Right.
Because I've already created a base. Then what you do is, I will explain more about this and how do you invite? How do you find leaders, and then how do you then end up inviting?
That's good.
But finding and forming leaders is, before you announce at a church, find leaders who are busy, find leaders who have enough of a social circle, find leaders who are not overly busy in the church as it is.
Yeah.
And the best way is, if you want a growing alpha, you need to be changing your hosts consistently. You can't have the same people hosting alpha all the time. They might be great, they might have the same experience, but naturally you start losing your connection with unsaved people.
Right.
And because they're so busy in it, you want to be changing your hosts. Why? Because if I invite my 5 friends, and my 5 friends, let's say, have an incredible time at alpha, but there's that one that goes, I want to do this thing again and I want to invite my other friends. I make that person a helper the next time. Meaning the next alpha that happens, they inviting 5 other friends because of what I had done, inviting them or him or her. And so now you naturally have an influx of new people coming in.
Great.
And Alpha doesn't become a discipleship course. It actually becomes evangelistic at its core.
Very good.
And because the videos are great and the questions are great, and hopefully as a church you can train your group leaders on how to do small groups and how to facilitate well, you then can naturally create a pipeline where there's there's believers who are coming, there's people who are coming in to explore faith, and you are growing leaders in the midst of that as well.
That's good. That's so good.
I hope that's a bit helpful.
Yeah, very helpful. I think there's also, sometimes the obstacle for a person who's wanting to write Alpha might be their belief that they need 5 theological gurus to be there who can answer all the questions. Can you tell us how Alpha is unique in that? That's not what, I don't think that would be a great leader for Alpha. So can you speak a little bit about that?
It's actually the least you know, the better, and the reason why the least you know, the better is we really want people who are in touch with people who are on the fringes of faith, who don't have faith and who are questioning faith.
That's good.
Generally, the more you know, unfortunately, the more you are isolated from people who don't believe, right? And so what makes Alpha unique is we are not there to convert people. We are there to facilitate conversation and to create moments and opportunities for the Holy Spirit to speak and to work in people's hearts without us overly emphasizing anything. So all we do is ask great questions. We explore the questions with them. If they're really asking for a complex, difficult theological question that is philosophical at its core, we could just say, actually, I've thought about that. I've explored it as well. I don't think I even have the answer, but I'm happy to explore it with you.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's not about, Alpha isn't about us telling you, but it's about actually us creating space for you to tell us. And we as facilitators are trying to get the gold out of people, meaning we want them to be speaking, to be exploring, them to be sharing what's in their hearts. So much so that if they leave an Alpha group, if they leave Alpha, we want them to go, I never thought I'd ever share that publicly.
That's good. Yeah.
But because you've created the space and the environment for them to do that, it allows now for the Holy Spirit to start to minister to them and start to speak to them as well.
That's powerful. Yeah. That's really good. I also think, and perhaps you can speak into this or correct me if I'm wrong, that space is also a great opportunity to form leaders.
Yeah.
Those who are attending Alpha, I think the church finds this unique opportunity to be able to say, you've experienced this, now next time, like whether they're new to faith, whether they're questioning, whatever, they come into that space and they can now be the people to run that. So I think it's a great pipeline for leadership.
Great pipeline.
It's
a great pipeline to grow leaders, to grow their confidence.
So good.
And you're growing leaders who don't feel the necessity and the need to have all the right answers.
Right.
And people who are able to listen to people. People just want to be listened to and not spoken to.
Right.
And now because Alpha creates the space where it's less about what we have to say and what we think or what our experiences are.
So good.
And so you're growing leaders that are pastoral at heart.
I love that. I love that. So that's really great insight on how we can form and have more leaders running Alpha and facilitating it in a way that will be fruitful to your Alpha. But what we also want you to know is that we have free resources that can help you train these leaders. So if you do have a reluctance or a hesitation on that, when you register and sign up for an Alpha, we have so many free resources that you can use in order to make this your best Alpha yet. We're going to move on to the next obstacle. And this one kind of ties into the previous one, and you touched on some of that a little bit more.
Yeah.
But we were kind of thinking about how does a leader overcome growth plateaus within their Alpha. So to paint a picture is a leader perhaps who ran their Alpha, and first week, super excited. Second week, 10 less people arrived. Third week, they're discouraged and they're like, what's the point of doing this?
Yeah.
And then perhaps another scenario would be a leader who's like really excited for Alpha. They run and 20 people come, but it's the same faces they've seen in church for the past 20 years. So they're not necessarily believers.
It stops being,
it stops
being exciting.
Exactly.
It's like, what's the point?
What's
really?
the point of carrying on if it is just a little bit redundant? What would you say to that, leaders, and how have you seen other churches navigate these?
I think if it's a real issue, and lots of churches find it, and so that's why some churches, they decide maybe 1 year they don't run, maybe they run after 2 or 3 years, or maybe they've just given up on Alpha because they're not seeing the growth that they potentially once saw, or they're not seeing the growth that they would potentially even want to see. The best way to make sure that you're not getting a plateau is by, after you've identified your leaders, you then train your leaders. Meaning, are they not coming because the Alpha session was actually really helpful and great?
Wow.
Or are they really not coming because, there's other issues, family issues, work commitment issues, and those are very legit issues.
Yeah.
But you'd hopefully don't want the first scenario of they're really not enjoying it. It's really not worth their time. So the best way to make sure that you don't get the plateau is by training your leaders. So before you do Alpha, every single time, train your hosts and train your helpers.
That's good.
First thing on training is making sure that they don't teach. They don't give too many ums and ahs, because that's sometimes very awkward for people. But they actually open. They kind. They ask questions, and they do not ask open-ended questions. They don't ask yes or no questions. But you really want to ask. You want to teach your facilitators to really ask great questions that get people to really think and really process. You also really want to help your hosts and your helpers to make sure that within the table, that when there is a necessary conflict, so let's say there's 2 people who don't agree on a particular topic, that you as a host are able to handle that, to make sure that no person feels left out and that you're not picking a side, even if you might agree with one and not the other. Sometimes it's politics. Sometimes it's the views of stuff that's happening in the world, and people are bringing those so strongly, and someone else might bring it a bit strong as well. And what you want is to be neutral in that place, to make sure that both people, even on opposite sides of the spectrum, are open to speak. The main thing is you want to make people feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Alpha really works well when the small groups work well.
That's very good.
And how do you make the small groups work really well? You make the small groups work very well when people feel comfortable.
Yeah.
They feel a sense of love. They feel a sense of connection because you've opened a space that they normally don't get anywhere else in the world.
That's very good.
So you invest in your leaders, you find your leaders, you train your leaders, and you make sure that you are helping them create the best experience possible.
That's so good. Is there something to be said about follow-up? Just in terms of, you spoke a little bit about making people feel seen and comfortable and all of that. Would you encourage leaders to say, follow up with the people who are in your group? Is that overstepping? What would you say to that, and how has that worked?
Well, I think it's a bit, if you follow the first part, which I said, you find your leader and you get your leader to invite 5 friends.
Yes.
Already, the leader already has some level of a connection with the 5 friends. And you're hoping that when you do Alpha, you're not just throwing the net out wide and expecting people to come, but actually you are commissioning people to say, hey, we'd love for you to host this group. Please invite your friends. Yeah. It's an easier conversation when I'm now asking my 5 friends, hey, gents, like, where were y'all? I mean, we missed y'all last night. It's an easier follow-up. Why? Because there's already some level of a relationship.
That's so good.
If there isn't a level of a relationship, it's best to leave it, because for some people, it might feel like you're running after them and you really want some level of a commitment. Because we say it's non-threatening, it's non-judgmental. You could leave at any point and at any time.
Yeah.
You're not signing up and giving us your details, and we, so as best as you can, if there isn't a level of connection or relationship, please don't follow up. Yeah, don't message people and ask them why they didn't come. Some people will really be kind enough to actually say, the reason why I can't come is I know alphas that happened during the winter season. I've got flu, or hey, my child has fallen sick and I can't come to the latest alpha. And some people might be kind enough, so you never really know what the issue is. But as best as you can, you want this to be as non-threatening as possible. And people must not feel like that they are obligated to come.
Yeah, that's good. That's very good. I want to wrap up this section, but flow into the next one. One of the things you spoke about is people inviting their friends. I think Alpha is not meant to be, and you mentioned this earlier, a discipleship huddle, of Christians coming together. And that's a real issue that some leaders face. So can you speak a little bit into that? Maybe the difference between what it would look like for it to be a discipleship course and an evangelism course? Yes. And then we'll flow into the evangelism side of it.
Yes. A discipleship course is something that people do normally every year as a way of grounding themselves in their faith, sometimes reawakening the awe that they have for Jesus, and something that they potentially do as a church every single year. Evangelism is the image of keeping the doors as open as you possibly can so that anyone and everyone can come in. And so how we do that, and what we believe, is that the best people that come to Alpha is through invitations. And so it's equipping and finding people within your context, your congregation, and even in your own life to say, why don't you invite 2 or 3 friends? I'll invite 2 or 3 friends. And together we'll just have a moment where we'll get to explore faith together. It's keeping the church doors, your home doors, your organizational doors as wide open as possible, so that people who would necessarily not even think about coming to church, people who used to go to church and now are so tired of it, people who are disillusioned about church, people who have so many questions about religion or even about the Christian faith, can actually come in and be saying, hey, we don't actually want to tell you anything. We actually want to hear what you think. And so why don't you come in and bring all your questions? And hey, we don't have all the answers to your questions, but we are here to listen to them. And to potentially, if you want, journey with you.
That's so
as good. You wrestle with the questions.
That's so good. And which brings us into the next obstacle the churches might face.
We are now
number 4.
Number 4.
Yes, this is obstacle number 4, where it's creating an invite culture and the art of an invite. I think, just to preface this, one of the important things that we believe as an organization, which I think is a biblical concept, is that evangelism is for all believers. For us to share our faith, but that word can be so weighted and it can feel really heavy. Like, it sounds like I need to have somebody lay hands on me for me to go out and do the things. But it shouldn't be that. And I think that's why Alpha is such a helpful tool for people to not necessarily have all the answers, but it's a great bridge into a space where there is a space where you can have that conversation. So my question around invitation, and maybe let's talk in terms of like the art of invitation and the culture of invitation. How can a church encourage their church members and believers? You spoke about the inviting 5, but how have you seen other churches navigate inviting people to alphas that are not necessarily church members, but are people who are exploring faith?
Every church exists to seek and save the lost, to get people who are far and distant from God. And so one of the ways to obviously create a culture of invitation in your church is to make it personal, which is the best way is to actually make it personal by asking people to actually invite.
Yeah,
the second thing is you need to give them a roadmap of how to invite. And so what I would advise and what other churches do is to say, we are running Alpha in the next month or two. Would love for you to think about 10 friends and for you to start praying for them by name.
That's good.
Well, we want to ground it in prayer. And so why don't you just write 10 friends' name down and start praying for them.
Love that.
And just start thinking about them, start praying for them. It could even not be a friend. It could be the barrister at the shop that you go to. It could be the potential security guard that you always bump to and have great conversations with. It's that colleague that's just gone through a life-changing and life-altering season in their life, and you don't even know what to say about them. It could be a family member that is going through a hectic moment in their life. And so just write those names down and just start praying for them name by name. And as you pray for them name by name, and as we're drawing up to the next Alpha series, just even see if, is God calling you or maybe even prompting you to invite one of those people. Yeah. But imagine you invite 5 of those friends.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've invited a couple of my friends, and 3 of them rejected me. And the 3 of them rejected me, and it was great because they rejected me because they're my friends. And so when they rejected me, nothing changed. One of them still laughs at me about that rejection, and he laughs at all the celebrities that are getting saved. It baffles him. But because I love him and he's my friend, and I love the fact that he can be himself, and no is always welcome.
Yeah, that's good.
Reject it if you want to, but it doesn't change how I view you and how much I appreciate you. Yeah. So let's say I invited some of my friends, but 2 of them decided to come. And now it's not a 50% victory, but at least out of my 5 friends, at least I got 2 to come.
That's good.
But imagine seeing 2 of your friends wrestle through faith and come on the other side with a faith. There's nothing better than that. That motivates me to not even just go, I want to do more of this, but to get them to now go, why don't you invite your friends to the next one? Because now they are the best people to tell people because they've just experienced something that has changed their lives. Yeah. And so you want to empower your people. Pray for the people that you want to invite. Number 2, I'll set a list and write it down. Out of those people, these are the people that I'm going to invite. Some of them might say no. Some of them might say yes. Some of them might say it's not the time, but still invite.
That's very good.
Yeah, still invite. Yeah. And the best way for anyone to come to Alpha is to be invited.
Yeah, that's very good.
Yeah.
And if I read in between the lines of what you're saying a little bit as well, is that it's important for you to have people around you who are not churched.
Yes.
Because
then you don't have anyone to invite.
Yeah, right. It's like we should be outward focused as believers. So even prioritizing that as a leader, communicating the importance of that.
Yeah. If I'm running an Alpha as well, if I'm running it in my church and I'm expecting other people to do it, but let's say you as the leader, as the pastor, as the Alpha coordinator, doesn't have friends who are non-believers or doesn't have people in your community or vicinity that aren't believers, it's not a very wise thing to do. But we really want to see, marriages being transformed, people finding hope and healing in Christ, and people coming from, as the Bible call it, from death to life. So and if we could play a very small way by just inviting them to an experience of that, 100%. I mean, there's nothing as exciting as seeing people come to faith. Yeah,
definitely. And this is not meant for condemnation, but an invitation to more. Like there's so much more that the Word of God invites us to. And if this thing is the life that the very lifeblood of who we are as believers, it's so worth
And if you invite, so let's say you invite someone to an Alpha and your Alpha happens on a Tuesday at 7 p.m. If you're going to invite them, also have the courage to follow up on that invite.
Yeah, that's good.
Firstly, by making sure that if they're keen or not keen. But secondly, what if they don't have the transport to come? They don't have the financial means to come.
That's good,
You must follow up with that. Because it makes it a lot more personal. That, man, you love me so much and you cared about me so much that you would take a moment of your time and your day to make sure that I can make it to Alpha and get home safely after Alpha. It just sends a message that you really love people and want them to come to know this Jesus. Yeah.
That's so good. One more question on that is, how have some churches done it on more of a grand scale? I know some churches have done things that are a little bit bold and making a day out of it to go and invite.
Yes.
What would that look like?
Churches have done so many incredible things, but still haven't found a better strategy than a one-on-one strategy.
That's good.
Obviously, some churches do social media, which is really effective. They'll have an alpha, walk around and they'll hand out a flyer and speak about it. They'll try create moments, or maybe make a pancake at a busy mall. And as they give out the free pancake, they invite them to an alpha happening near them. So creating moments where they're inviting and trying to get to people who normally wouldn't be coming to church, or being in spaces, in public spaces, and making people aware that, hey, there's going to be an alpha that's happening soon. Some churches will print a huge banner that they put outside their church to make people be aware that, hey, the alpha will be happening here soon. Click the QR code, come register and come. So there's multiple things that are done. All of those are effective, but I just haven't seen one as effective as a personal one-on-one, as a personal one-on-one invitation. Here's why. When people step into anything unfamiliar, they need some familiarity. What's the right English?
That's it. Yes.
They need something or someone that is familiar. And so now, because I've invited the people, I make sure that they get there on time. I give them the right address. I tell them when they arrive what they must do and how, and that, hey, just be yourself. You don't have to dress up or dress down. Just be yourself. It's just those little things that make people feel comfortable and excited to potentially even want to come.
That's good. Yeah, very, very helpful. And I think that will bring us into our last obstacle, which obstacle number 5, which is sustaining momentum.
Yes.
What we started off with is just to speak about how Alpha is basically a bridge for, and you described it as an open door, for people who are out there to start to find their way into the church. How does a church kind of position themselves to be that continuous open door, and how can Alpha be a tool for that?
Yes. So I'd imagine it, let's say I invite my 5 friends to Alpha, and let's say out of my 5 friends, 1 or 2 of them really crossed the line of faith. And they're so excited. The general question to ask is, what happens then? So there's many things, obviously, that churches potentially do, either put people into small groups or put them into some level of another course where they maybe could get to know deeper about their faith and maybe gain some more theological handles. But another thing is, what you want to do is, out of those 2 people who've crossed the line of faith, you actually want to help them to go, you probably could be our best evangelist now. Because now they've crossed the line of faith, and you want to give them another opportunity to say, why don't you invite your friends to the next Alpha course? And so by the time you finish your Alpha course, because you've invited people who were busy and have a social circle, and at least 50% of your Alpha people aren't repeats, people are doing it for the first time, you're trusting for people's lives to be changed. And those people whose lives are changed, by the end of that Alpha, you want to communicate, this is when our next Alpha is happening. Now, the 5 friends, the 5 people that were leaders, we empower whose lives were changed by Alpha to actually help them now invite 5 of their friends. Now, Alpha then is perpetually creating its own momentum. You don't have to create any necessary hype. What you are doing is giving the people who've now crossed the line of faith an opportunity to tell their friends and create an opportunity to invite their community, their friends, to now experience what they've just experienced. In the same non-threatening, non-judgmental way.
So good.
And so we advise churches, if you run it once, why don't you consider running it twice? When you finish your first Alpha, make sure that one that you run it really well. And it's really reaching non-believers. It's reaching people who are on the fringes. It's reaching people who are questioning about life and about faith. But by the time you finish that one, why don't you make an announcement about when the next one is coming? So that the people that were impacted in the first one, now you can start walking a journey with them to try to see, why don't you invite your friends to the next one? You might even find that now you don't even have to announce Alpha at the church. You don't even have to do all the fancy, nice things, because the people who've been most impacted are your best people to invite people. Because now they'll actually tell them the truth.
Yeah.
You don't have to hype it, tell them what Alpha is, how it's been done. They just need to share their story. But now you're creating an opportunity for people to tell people about Jesus. You're raising their faith and their leadership. And that will create its necessary momentum
I like that.
in running Alpha. I mean, what we are not saying is that Alpha is the answer to every problem and is your answer to evangelism. But what we're saying is, in the sea of evangelism, the many options and many things that could be done with you reaching people with the gospel, why don't you consider running Alpha?
Yeah.
And maybe if you run it once, run it so well that you are able to run it a second time, where you see the people that were impacted in the first one actually inviting their friends and their community to the second one.
That's very good. That's very good. To wrap up that sustaining momentum thing, I think one thing we can actually also speak about, which we have done as Alpha, is to encourage churches to position Alpha as a bridge in, like, leveraging big, let's say, Christian calendar, moments.
Times that are in the
calendar.
Yeah,
right. You have a lot of people who are unchurched who will visit your church on Easter. Give them a next step, the gospel is being shared there, but I'm sure they can't, like most churches, you can't lift your hands and be like, I have an objection and a question for that. But to communicate that, hey, if you're moved by this and you want to learn a bit more, we're running something called Alpha. Come, all your questions, your ideas, no judgment. We want to communicate, we want you to be able to communicate those ideas. So
there's so many great seasons and moments, and
good.
Thanks for sharing that. It's Easter, it could be Christmas, but also there's seasons that really work well. The summer is a great season. People will be willing to get out of their homes, or the spring. There's also a great season, and sometimes there's so much that happens during that winter season as well, depending on where the church is located, where the people are located. But wherever you are, we're not telling you what to do. We don't think Alpha is the answer and the be-all to everything, but it's a tool that you can freely use that will allow you and to create an opportunity and a space for people to explore faith, where they can be themselves and they can bring all of their questions. And we're not promising people to answer all their questions. All we're trying to say is for you to create the space for people to open up and to really share what's in their hearts, and for you and I to trust that the Holy Spirit will start to minister to them. And I think Ariel will probably put down the link if you want to get on a call with us. Would love to coach you, would love to help you, and would love to assist you to make sure that you run your best Alpha yet.
Amazing. Thank you for tuning in. And like we said, we are here for you. We want to do this together. Remember, the gospel is the main thing. Alpha is a tool. And for as long as it works, we'll keep promoting
using it.
Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope that this has been helpful to you and that you can use this and give us feedback. Tell us after you've applied some of these principles, how that has worked for you. But we're so glad you tuned in, and we are praying for you and for your church. So we will see you soon, hopefully at your next Alpha.
Soon.
Alrighty, thank you and goodbye.